Alchemy has often been described as the esoteric practice of converting base metals into gold. Yet this ancient discipline possesses multiple layers of meaning that go well beyond its popular image. Throughout different regions and epochs, alchemy has resonated as an emblem for the inner refinement and metamorphosis of human consciousness. The classic image of an alchemist hunched over a crucible, attempting to produce precious metal, masks the deeper truth. Alchemy symbolizes a quest to transform limited perspectives into enlightened awareness. From the banks of the Nile to monastic libraries in medieval Europe, and from Chinese philosophical schools to modern psychological interpretations, the alchemical journey serves as a reminder that authentic change begins within. Some people trace the roots of alchemy to Egypt, where spiritual and philosophical ideas merged under the influence of religious rites. The Greek culture that followed absorbed and reinterpreted these concepts, weaving them into their own tradition. The craft eventually spread into various regions of the Middle East and Europe. Although the term alchemy derives from an Arabic linguistic source, it stands for a tapestry of ideas that draw upon many traditions. Many medieval scholars were indeed fascinated by physical experiments, but the deeper interest lay in discovering universal truths that could guide the evolution of the soul. Alchemists created texts filled with cryptic symbols and allegorical language, recognizing that these ideas were both precious and potentially misunderstood in an era defined by political and religious upheavals. Central to many alchemical writings is the image of the philosopher's stone, a legendary catalyst believed to perfect metals and grant immortality. Beneath the literal reading, this stone often acts as a metaphor for a perfected state of being. Alchemical lore suggests that just as unrefined metals require fire and repeated purification to become gold, individuals likewise undergo trials and tribulations that lead to inner wisdom. This process is frequently depicted in symbolic stages, commonly identified as negrito, blackening, albedo, whitening, and rubedo, reddening. Negrito stands for the darkest phase, where illusions dissolve and deeper self-awareness emerges. Albedo signifies purification, during which clarity begins to shine through, while rubedo symbolizes the culminating, radiant stage of conscious evolution. Although these stages appear in European manuscripts, a similar framework of transformation can be found across many spiritual and philosophical cultures, indicating a profound, universal resonance. Chinese traditions offer a related concept known as internal alchemy. Rather than focusing on an external laboratory, practitioners direct their efforts inward, circulating vital energies and using breathwork, movement, and meditative concentration. This system teaches that the human body itself is like a crucible where different energies can be refined and balanced. By harmonizing inner forces, a practitioner approaches a heightened state of vitality and insight, echoing the ultimate intent of Western alchemists who sought to purify mind and spirit alongside matter. Meanwhile, some mystical strands in Middle Eastern and Judaic thought incorporate alchemical symbolism into their study of cosmic order. Kabbalistic texts, for instance, sometimes describe how letters of creation correspond to particular energies, and how refining the self paves the way for connecting with divine wisdom. Another striking parallel appears in the philosophical layers of the Indian subcontinent, including Hindu and related systems. Although not always termed alchemy, these traditions use imagery of a latent energy coiled at the base of the spine that can be awakened and guided through chakras or energy centers. This awakening, described by some as a form of transformation, has been interpreted by modern thinkers as resonant with the idea of turning a raw substance, dormant energy, into a more exalted form, awakened consciousness. While differences in terminology are evident, the underlying principle remains. The body-mind continuum is seen as the site of an extraordinary metamorphosis that unites the earthly with the transcendent. European alchemists of the Middle Ages, often depicted as solitary experimenters, were profoundly influenced by Hermeticism and Neoplatonic thought. Many considered their activities to be a holy undertaking, woven with spiritual devotion. Layered treatises described coded processes of distillation and calcination, but these steps were never strictly about physical compounds. Instead, they symbolized inward purification, burning away the dross of unexamined habits to reveal the luminous core of human consciousness. Historical accounts suggest that some of these individuals risked persecution by mainstream religious authorities who misunderstood or distrusted these explorations. Consequently, complex codes and allegories proliferated, ensuring that only those equipped with insight could interpret the deeper messages. The psychological perspective advanced by Carl Jung and others in the early 20th century revived interest in alchemy by claiming that medieval texts portray the process of integrating the conscious and unconscious dimensions of the psyche. Jung recognized that the transmutation from lead to gold paralleled the psychological journey toward wholeness, where repressed material is acknowledged and reconciled. Under this lens, the concept of the Philosopher's Stone becomes an emblem of full integration, a state in which one's inner contradictions are harmonized, allowing for renewed creativity, emotional balance, and perception of deeper truths. Some have noted that alchemy's metaphor of transformation applies just as much to collective societies as to individual practitioners. Civilizations go through cycles akin to the phases of dissolution and renewal. Periods of chaos, decay, or conflict can be likened to nigredo, prompting humanity to confront illusions or harmful structures. Out of these struggles emerges albedo, the call to reform, clarify, and heal, which may lay the groundwork for rubedo, a transformative renaissance that infuses communities with new values, technologies, and cultural expressions. Historical eras such as the European Renaissance, which renewed interest in classical learning and spurred scientific discovery, bear alchemical hallmarks. Even in modern times, an increasing focus on sustainability, social justice, and holistic well-being suggests an ongoing quest to refine the inner base metal of fragmented social systems and discover new avenues for global collaboration. On a personal level, the notion of alchemical transformation can still be meaningful. Some people integrate contemplative practices, journaling, or creative expression to invite deeper self-knowledge. This might involve examining emotional triggers, investigating recurring thought patterns, or confronting unresolved experiences. By persevering through uncomfortable phases, the symbolic nigredo, one can steadily move toward clarity and equanimity. The culminating stage of rubedo may not be a static endpoint, but rather a dynamic condition in which compassion, discernment, and purpose consistently radiate through daily life. The environment, relationships, and personal endeavors can all mirror the fruit of inner work, showing that alchemy's impact is not confined to abstract realms. Beyond individual growth, certain contemporary movements apply the alchemical metaphor to leadership development or organizational culture. Facilitators in business or educational contexts may discuss how conflict and tension, if navigated mindfully, can become catalysts for innovation rather than stagnation. In some circles, the phrase "turning lead into gold" emerges as a reminder that obstacles can be stepping stones and that real transformation often begins with the willingness to engage adversity with awareness. Alchemical metaphors also overlap with the realm of artistic creativity. Visual artists, writers, and musicians have, across centuries, drawn from alchemical imagery to depict metamorphosis. Paintings from the Renaissance period occasionally embedded cryptic references to the Philosopher's Stone or the union of opposites, while modern artists sometimes use references to crucibles or retorts to symbolize personal or societal upheaval. Many creative minds interpret the tension between contradictory elements, such as discipline and spontaneity, tradition and experimentation, as a crucible from which fresh works of art and novel perspectives can emerge. Alchemy's resonance with multiple spiritual paths underscores a universal yearning for transcendence. Some mystical communities emphasize a heart-based alchemy, in which genuine devotion and selfless love refine the inner being. The practice of opening the heart is equated with generating a subtle warmth that dissolves emotional blockages and fosters compassion. While such approaches might not explicitly reference historical alchemical texts, the spirit of transformation remains central. In these practices, the essential ingredient is sincerity, often described as the secret fire that gradually purifies negative tendencies. In the modern era, various self-improvement and mindfulness programs contain echoes of alchemical ideas, sometimes without using traditional terminology. The emphasis on shedding limiting beliefs, cultivating clarity, and attaining harmony resonates strongly with old alchemical principles. Some practitioners speak of harnessing a golden consciousness, referring to a perspective in which gratitude, insight, and loving kindness become guiding forces. By consistently exercising introspection, one can glean insights into hidden aspects of the psyche, parallel to an alchemist who meticulously observes chemical reactions in a flask. Even though science has progressed far beyond the classical attempts to transmute metals, interest in alchemy endures because its core theme is timeless: the transformation from a limiting condition to one of expanded awareness and capacity. This theme motivates spiritual seekers, psychologists, and creative thinkers alike. The interplay of opposites, shadow and light, known and unknown, chaos and order, remains a defining element of human experience. Alchemy provides a framework that suggests these polarities can be harnessed to propel development rather than plunge individuals into despair or stagnation. The legendary philosopher's stone, in this perspective, symbolizes an elevated state where all facets of one's being align harmoniously. Everyday life becomes the laboratory, as personal relationships, professional challenges, and private reflections all serve as catalysts. The trials of heartbreak, disappointment, or confusion may appear formidable, but they can also be the crucible where new wisdom emerges. Alchemical teachings urge that the lead of negativity holds the potential for expansion if engaged with patience and sincerity. That does not imply an easy or swift journey, but rather an evolving process in which each step of introspection might reveal hidden gold. Some voices even suggest that the entire planet stands on the cusp of an alchemical shift, as global awareness of ecological interdependence and collective well-being gains momentum. Technological achievements alone have not guaranteed sustainability or inner fulfillment. A sense of emptiness persists if the dimension of consciousness is neglected. The universal call of alchemy invites the species to consider how to unify practical knowledge with deeper ethical and spiritual understanding, so that constructive solutions can arise for the benefit of all. In that sense, alchemy ceases to be an antiquated curiosity and instead becomes a guidepost for navigating modern complexities. Ultimately, alchemy transcends literal attempts to manufacture gold. It speaks to a longing in human nature to elevate suffering into wisdom, to reconcile division into wholeness, and to transform confusion into clarity. Whether through the lens of ancient treatises, psychological interpretation, or mystical devotion, alchemy remains an enduring symbol of hope and potential. The real treasure is not external wealth, but the capacity to see through illusions, awaken heartfelt empathy, and embody a state of conscious unity. Alchemy's message persists because its essence resonates with the fundamental aspiration to realize the highest possibilities of existence. Once this aspiration roots itself, the journey of transmutation unfolds, gradually revealing that the gold so ardently sought lies within, waiting to be discovered and shared with the world.